Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of a Butterbox discussion. If you guys came from our previous episode, I'm sure you are familiar with us. But if not, and this is your first time tuning in, hi, my name is Matthew Lavo and I'll be your host for today. And along with me are my co-hosts Amanda Cabrera,
Hey guys!
my zone is Ina,
Hi.
Carrie Mickey,
What's up, guys?
and Alex Lee.
Hi guys.
Okay, just to give you a little refresher, our previous episode was about ethical issues concerning targeted ads. And boy, that was a hell of a ride, right guys?
Yes.
Uh,
So now for our last episode of this season's podcast, we will be tackling a case that happened during the pandemic. So are you guys ready?
Ready.
Great. Just to give an overview, we will be discussing the situation, values, principles, loyalties, and judgment. First up, we have Carrie, who will be explaining the first step of the Ponder Box. Take it away, Cal.
Hi, guys. It's me again. Okay, so as we all know, the online community is a great place to acquire information from all over the world. Entering the year 2020, the whole world was faced with an unexpected virus that quickly spread and became a global pandemic. And the only source of information and updates that people had were through social media and other websites in general. So what about you guys? Paano nyo na-handle yung pandemic and mas tumaas ba yung screen time nyo?
well, before I answer your question, Kao, can somebody please move the slide to the next one? Ayan. So, yeah, lalo na that everything's done online. People work from home now and we have our classes online. And ako talaga, tumaas yung screen time ko because I search and scroll through my feeds for hours.
OMG, May, same. Like, besides the news being aired on television, I also scroll through different websites para, maging updated ako sa mga cases and yung government protocols. Tsaka, kilala naman yan naman ako, guys, diba? Like, I'm kind of praying, so, like, I need my peace
Yeah.
of mind.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
that's true.
same.
Okay, so, diba, if you try to recall the events, the first confirmed case of COVID-19 in the Philippines was reported on January 21st, 2020. Then the first official lockdown was announced on March 15, 2020. Initially, everyone panicked since bago nga yung virus, tapos cases were going up talaga, and noong time pa na yun, limited news updates ang natatanggap natin regarding it. Kasi nobody really expected na it would like actually hit the world and become a global pandemic. So, the last thing we need, diba, is fake news.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, it seems like 3 people did not understand the assignment. Okay, for context, 2 journalists named Mario Batigas and Amor Virata were charged for publishing false information about the new COVID-19 virus through Latigo News TV's YouTube channel. And this caused immediate panic among the citizens of Cavite, which, as expected, yun naman talaga yung mangyayari, di ba? And
Yes.
according to them, nasagap daw nila tong information na to from a Facebook post made by an account named Maggie Bernal on March 23, 2020. And the said post, along with the pictures mismo, was captioned with 10 photos of suspected persons under investigation for coronavirus infection in Cavite City, adding that one patient died of the viral disease at the Cavite Medical Center. So, syempre, di ba, initially, ang iisipin talaga ng tao, legit yan kasi may photos, tapos may pag-name drop pa, di ba? Pero yun na nga, unfortunately, fake news siya. And the photos were actually patients from Makati, and it was later on discovered that the person behind the Maggie Bernal was actually Noveleta Mayor Chua, who created the troll account back in 2010 to attack his political opponents.
Grabe si Mayor no? Ang dami na ang problema sa mundo. Dadagdagan pa niyan.
Mismo, Alec. Nagmukha tuloy desperate yung mayor na to manalo kasi kailangan pa niya manira ng mga candidates. Grabe na talaga.
Diba? Sobrang grabe. And according to the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group, this single post caused a stir among the Cavite citizens. So naturally, they filed charges against him and the 2 journalists mentioned. But despite all the panic the journalists and Noveleta Mayor Chua, aka Maggie Bernal, caused, some people still wanted to defend them. And Reporters Without Borders and Committee to Protect Journalists went against the complaints of the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group. And pinaglalaban talaga nila na this filing case was a grave violation of press freedom. And anong masasabi niyo doon?
Mm,
mean, I understand and respect press freedom, but what's press freedom if this will cause harm to the community naman, 'di ba? Press
Tama.
freedom kasi I believe is supposed to be about publishing and disseminating information for the betterment of everyone, 'di ba? Not to cause panic. So if may press freedom ka, you should be using it wisely because
Right.
the information you publish will be consumed by other people.
I somewhat agree din, pero for the journalists, okay, I think they're just trying to do their job. And isn't the whole point of their job to publish news and updates to the public? But yeah, gets ko naman na in the end, they should have really fact-checked first.
Yeah, tama naman kayong dalawa. And eto pa, during the peak of the issue, Noveleta Mayor Chua did not address the accusation at all. And he showed as if wala siyang ginagawang mali. So in short, nagmamaang-maangan talaga siya. Tapos 4 months after the complaint, tsaka lang siya nag-speak up about it, claiming that according to his attorney, the well-known Harry Roque, it was merely a complaint and the PNP actually filed no official case against him. And he also pointed out na Cavite City Mayor Bernardo Paredes was the one behind this complaint. But Paredes denied this claim. So basically, wala talagang umaako ng mga actions nila at this point.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
as for the two journalists naman, there are no recent updates regarding their current situation after their time in prison. Kumbaga, nag-lie low na lang talaga sila. So, 'di ba? Para naman mas maintindihan natin ang sides nila kasi malay natin bigyan na lang natin sila ng konting benefit of the doubt. So let us now move on to our values. Let's go, Amanda.
Thank you, Kaori. So, for our values, we have three sides: the Noveleta Mayor, the two journalists, and the Philippine National Police. Let's talk about it in order para hindi tayo malito. So, it is a given that Dina Reyes Chua, the Noveleta Mayor, wants to maintain a good reputation because he is a local executive. There is a saying where staying at the top of any field is harder than getting there. Therefore, retaining a clean image is a must for him to achieve his political ambition.
Yeah, I agree with this because a person in a position of power and a public figure should pay more attention to keeping a good image and reputation.
Period. For the two journalists naman, they value the success of their online news platforms. Since many people are unaware of their blogging sites, anything controversial will definitely generate more views. And so, the emergence of the pandemic has brought about this opportunity. Naturally, because of its rapid spreading, COVID-19 became the talk of the town. Everyone around the world became fearful because they were uncertain of what was to happen, whether or not the virus would enter their country, city, or even their community. When the two journalists saw a chance of releasing an exclusive, they did not hesitate to disseminate the information without fact checking.
Teka, pero kasi 'di ba based on what we've learned, madaling ma-frame ang mga tao with fake news, especially if they do
Yeah.
not know how to fact checking.
Yes,
So I
tama.
feel like this case talaga is actually a good and relevant example. So, as journalists, they should be able to disseminate legitimate information since it's basically their responsibility.
Right. Okay. So for the Philippine National Police, they value two things: professionalism and public safety. As a police officer, whenever they receive a complaint, it is their duty to enforce the laws and regulations of the country. Meanwhile, because the unverified post caused panic among the Cavite citizens, the PNP ought to create order from the chaos. Hence, they acted on the complaint filed by their local government to assure that the people that the situation is controlled. Okay, so ayun, that's it for values, guys. So now it's Maisie's turn to talk about the principles of these three entities.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. So, after understanding the values of our three entities, let's move on to their principles. So, for Noveleta Mayor Chua, if we look at it in the lens of the ontology, we can say that it was his duty to preserve his political image. So, the said post made by the troll account Maggie Bernal accused the Cavite City government for not being transparent with the COVID-19 patients. So, if it really was Mayor Chua who published that online, We can say that he did that as a duty for himself to discredit his opponent, which is the Cavite City Mayor, for his gain. However, guys, the ontology could also work against him since, as a politician, it's his duty to put the interests and well-being of, the people first. It's his responsibility to tell the truth and protect people from misinformation, 'di ba?
Yeah.
So, for utilitarianism naman, this principle cannot justify what he allegedly did, since the fake news did not contribute anything for the greater good of the greater number. It only misinformed people and caused panic, as mentioned kanina. And kahit sabihin mong it spread awareness about COVID-19 cases at the time, it was still false information because it didn't happen in Cavite. It was from Makati. So it shouldn't have been published and disseminated in that way in the first place.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
now, right, so now we move on to virtue ethics and personalism. These two clearly cannot justify Noveleta Mayor Chua as well, because he lacked the virtue of truth and his action did not contribute any good for himself and the community, because at the end, a complaint was still filed against him. He still got involved in the whole issue, which definitely, affected his reputation. And again, what
Yeah.
he did only caused fear and panic amidst the pandemic. So, moving on to the principles of the two journalists, they can be justified by deontology since, it's their duty to publish and spread relevant news about COVID-19, even if the said news was of patients in Makati and not in Cavite. It's also their duty to sustain themselves and their careers by doing their jobs as journalists, especially when the pandemic was relatively new. So, regardless of the kind of media they report for, it was their duty to do their jobs. But then again, duty ethics can also work against them because it can be argued that as journalists, it's their duty to fact check and only publish and spread the truth, 'di ba?
Yeah.
And so when we look at it naman with utilitarianism, this principle is also against them because they had spread false information which only caused panic and fear for the greater number. And even if it can be argued that they didn't know what they spread was false information, ganun talaga, talagang hindi maganda yung naging epekto sa community. So
Yeah.
moving on to PNP's principles, I'll pass it on to you, Alex.
Okay, thank you, Maisie. And last but not the least, let's talk about the principles of PNP. They can be justified in the lens of personalism because they investigated the main source of the fake news. They sought to get the truth out to the public, which contributes to the good of the individual and the community. Doing this is one of the ways to protect individuals and the community from the negative effects of misinformation. They put an end to the misinformation and filed complaints and charges accordingly. And by promoting and advocating to the truth, it makes the person thrive, and in turn, the community will thrive as well. If the community only spreads the truth, then unnecessary consequences can be avoided that can harm the individual and the community. And in the lens of utilitarianism, they are justified because by putting a stop to the fake news and filing complaints or charges accordingly, the majority came to know the truth, and other journalists will actually take this as a learning to be more extra careful in publishing and spreading news and information. And
Mm-hmm.
another principle that can justify them is virtue ethics, because they aim for the truth when it comes to COVID-19 news and information. And finally, in deontology, they are also justified because they did their duty to put an end to the fake news and filed charges against those who published and spread the said fake news. And with that, I think we can move on to loyalties. Mafi?
Thank you, Alex. Now on to the fourth part of the podcast, which is loyalty. The Noveleta's Mayor Chua is loyal to himself by strengthening his image and his political path. Him trying very hard to keep his clean image shows how loyal he is to attain his political goals as a local executive. As mentioned earlier, he used the troll account to discredit the Cavite city mayor to strengthen his political image since they are opponents. But unfortunately for him, it went downhill, and of course, he had to protect his image by dismissing the accusation against him, since he is loyal to himself. And for the two journalists naman, they are loyal to their jobs. Diba, Amanda, you said they wanted their online news platforms to succeed. And I get it because if you work in a certain company, you would want it to succeed in order to profit more.
Yeah, Mafi. Kasi their platforms are relatively new and it's important for them to increase their engagement so that they could profit from it.
And lastly, the Philippine National Police, most commonly called the PNP, is loyal to the society. They wanted the journalists to be accountable for spreading false information in social media that could harm the public. Guys, I think we've said all that we can for loyalties. We can now move on to judgment to see whether who are the ethical entities. Alex?
Okay, thank you, Mafi. So, with everything that we discussed, we will now determine whether or not all of the communicative bodies are ethical or unethical. Let us start with Mayor Chua. Nako, unethical yan. He allegedly
Oh,
used a troll account to spread fake news about COVID-19. And the way he defended himself was to actually discredit the Cavite city mayor instead of apologizing for the issue. And dahil sa false information na pinost niya, ang dami nang nadamay. Kasama na doon
Mm.
yung dalawang journalists. And kung yung dalawang journalists nga naloko na, paano pa kaya yung mga tao na hindi naman gaano magaling sumiyasat kung ano ang totoo at
Yeah.
hindi, 'di ba?
Kaya,
Diba, if
Mm-mm.
galing talaga sa kanya yung fake news, if you as an individual who is part of the government, dapat responsibilidad niya na to prioritize the well-being of the people na he serves.
true.
Yeah, tama ka dyan. And then, dun naman sa mga journalists, I think we can all agree that they are also unethical. I mean, don't journalists need to double check or even triple check if the information they're publishing is credible and accurate, diba?
that's true. They really should have thought of the consequences of whatever they post, especially when it's a sensitive topic, such as the pandemic.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
comment
agree
from
with
someone.
you guys. I really agree with you guys kasi 'di ba, I don't think they corrected their wrong, 'di ba,
Yeah.
after everything. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
seems that the only ethical communicative entity here is PNP, right? Kasi they're the ones who
Mhm.
did the right thing. They investigated, filed a complaint, and filed the charge against
Yeah.
those who spread the fake news.
Yes, that's true. And but to be honest, they could have done a better job because only the
Mm,
two journalists were the ones who got imprisoned, despite the fact that the fake news allegedly was posted by Mayor Chua.
I agree
mm.
with you, Alec. Like, it makes me wonder if Mayor Chua was supposed to be locked up as well, pero he was given the option to bail out. It goes to show how unequal we are as a society.
Yeah, exactly. But
True.
sadly, what's done is done. And with that, I think that's all for the Potter Box discussion on this case, right?
Yeah, I have to admit though, this case was a good example of how people should be extra careful in the world of cyberspace. Kasi yung mga
True.
information talaga that you publish and disseminate online, sobrang bilis kumalat. So pag fake
Yes.
news, nako, wala na.
Mm.
Yeah, I really agree with that. And as an active user of social media, I kept on checking updates of news sa mga ganap. At kailangan talaga natin mag-fact check kasi sobrang hirap na
Mm,
talaga.
Totoo. And alam nyo, feeling ko ang tagal bago ako maka-get over dito. Kasi yung unfair talaga na yung two journalists yung
yeah.
makukulong. Kahit yung Noveleta Mayor, yung nagpasimuno. Parang sobrang unfair.
Kaya
Mm-mm.
nga, like what I said earlier, it's so unfortunate na kitang-kita yung influence ng power, fame, or money when it comes to situations like this.
Yeah.
Ay, ang hirap
Yeah.
natin kapag ganyan, no?
True.
Anyways, here's a reference from today's podcast para you guys can do your own research na din. Mahirap ng fake news.
Totoo,
Yes.
I'm
Do
guys.
you
sure
read
Fact
about
check.
here.
it?
Page
Fact
2,
check
page 2.
tayo.
Next
Page
page.
2,
Pakita mo,
marami
marami
yan.
tayong reference eh.
Ayan. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you
Stay
learned
tuned, malay nyo,
something.
baka we'll have another episode soon. Joke
Exactly.
lang. Joke lang.
True.
Another episode na yan, girl. Pang ilang episode na ito.
True. Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you
guys.
guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.